Okay, today I'd like to talk a little bit about stacking and unstacking racks in a warehouse or anywhere in the shop. First thing I want to speak on is the center of gravity on your forklift, so we understand where the center of gravity needs to be. Theoretically speaking, there is a center stability triangle on your tow motor, which runs from your two front tires to the center of your rear axle. The center of that gravity is about where the tow motor driver is sitting, right underneath that. That's empty. If you have a load on your forks, that center of gravity will change to the front, right in the middle of both of your steer tires, or both of your front tires rather. So just keep that in mind. When you do have a load on your forks, your center of gravity will be moved forward a little bit. So the first thing you need to do is when you come into a warehouse and you go to pick something up, make sure that your forks on your tow motor are spread wide enough to handle that load. Whether you pick up a rack, whether you pick up a basket, them forks will have to be adjusted according to that rack size or basket size. If you're picking up a rack such as these right here, these racks can be grabbed from either side. If you grab them from the side that does not have the safety bar, make sure you look at your load, make sure that you are aware of the center of gravity. You'll want to go straight in. If the racks are full, you know that your center of gravity is in the middle of them racks. Make sure that you check the clearance on the back side. If your forks protrude through, make sure that you do not catch that load in the back as you're lifting it up. You want to go all the way in until the rack touches the rack itself. Just make sure that your forks aren't all the way through. When picking up, pick up just a little bit. Make sure that load's secure. If that top rack is going to be half full of doors, that center of gravity is going to be shifted to the left or to the right, whichever that load sits. So just make sure if you pick up and that load shifts a little bit, you're going to have to back out and you're going to have to adjust to that side a little bit. Preferably take the load off the top. If it's unstable, if that can't be done, you're going to have to adjust your load. Also, if you pick a rack up like this, your center of gravity is going to be right in the center. It's not going to shift left or to the right unless you pick up, 2 or 3 racks high, then it's going to adjust. So just make sure you know the weight of your load. Something that also compromises that is your battery. That's why it's very important to make sure that you have the right size battery in your tow motor, because that also compromises the load that you're lifting. That serves as part of your counterbalance for your tow motor. So if you have a tow motor that takes a big giant D battery and you have an A battery in that, you're going to be able to pick up less than you normally would. And that's going to compromise your load, which is going to cause you to tip forward. As you're backing out with the load up in the air, the proper way to do this is to back straight up. Once your load is cleared, come straight down. No sudden stops with your brakes. Don't turn left or to the right while your load is lifted in the air. By turning, that's going to shift your load. You're either going to drop your load or your tow motor is going to flip over. And I have seen that happen before. So just make sure when you get your load, straight back, your load's clear, straight down, within 3 to 4 inches off the ground, and then you may travel with your load. While traveling with your load through the shop, just make sure you're aware of your height clearance. We have load pipes, water lines, electrical boxes, cages, overhead cages where all the paint line parts run. So it's a different height clearance in every building and in every part of the building. Just make sure as you're traveling, whether it's frontwards or backwards, you're always aware of what's beside you, behind you, in front of you, and always remember to look above you to make sure that you're clear also. When traveling with a load or without a load, it's the same thing as traveling in your car. You always want to stay on the right-hand side. If you're making a corner, you always want to swing to the wide and to the left, or stay on the inside to the right. Same laws apply. It's just common courtesy. You would never want to travel on the opposite side. You're going to catch somebody off guard. To come around the corner, there's more likely going to be an accident because you're not on your side. So just pay attention when you're traveling. Stay on your side of the road. Beep your horn. Use common courtesy. Watch for pedestrians. Also, when stacking your racks, when you're bringing racks to or from the warehouse, just make sure when you go to stack a rack up, if it's a full load, just make sure you have your heaviest load on the bottom and your lightest load on the top. So if I have a partial rack, I'm going to want to put that on the top, even if I have to set my load down, pull that partial rack out, and adjust my load. I should take the time to do that so nobody comes in and grabs this load, and if it's top heavy, if they go to move it, the whole load's going to fall over. So heavy load on the bottom, light load on the top. That applies to traveling also. Also when traveling, the rule of thumb is 2 racks high or 16 foot. I mean, if you have baskets, obviously you can go 2 or 3 high depending on the baskets. But you definitely want to make sure that your load is small and you carry close to the ground. So if your load does go to tip, it's got nowhere to go but to the ground, and it'll rock back in place. So 2 racks high or 16 foot high. There's a few safety topics we'd like to talk about as far as tow motor and pedestrian sharing the same walk space. Anytime you walk across this aisleway and you're coming to an intersection, you want to make sure that you stop, look both ways, make sure that there's no tow motor traffic coming. Make sure you get that eye contact, make sure you both see each other, let him pursue, and then you can continue across. If you're the forklift driver, you're coming through an intersection, you want to make sure that you proceed slowly. Make sure you beep your horn. Make sure you look both ways. Even though pedestrians have right of way, you still need to make sure you make that eye contact with them so you know where they're at all the time so everybody is safe. Anytime you're coming down a ramp and you have a load on your forks, your load should always be in the front. You should always travel at a safe speed. Check your height clearance. And you should always be looking in the direction that you're traveling. Anytime that you're traveling up a ramp with a load, the load should still be in the front. For demonstration purposes only, we have 2 baskets high. His view will be obstructed. You need to have a spotter with you if the load is too high and cannot be downstacked. If the load can be downstacked, that's the proper way to do it. Downstack it so your visibility is clear and you can see. If the load is single and it cannot be split, by all means, you should have a spotter with you at all times. Make sure your height is clear. Make sure you're clear in the front. Anytime you exit a door and there's an aisleway, make sure before you step out, you look both ways. Make sure there's no traffic coming. A lot of times you'll enter into a building, whether it be from outside to in, your vision will be obstructed, either from the sun or the lights, or it's a little darker inside. Just make sure you take that first step and you look both ways before you enter into an intersection. Since forklift operators and pedestrians share the same walk space and work space, you got to make sure that you're always in the crosswalk and not out into the walkway like I am right now. So when you're rounding the corner, you're a tow motor driver, you're going to stay to the right, which was correct. And I am actually in the wrong by not being in the crosswalk. So you always have to be prepared, you always have to be alert. Even though the crosswalk was there, sometimes not everybody follows it. So just make sure, even though you know you have the right of way, you still have to pay attention and be alert and aware of your surroundings.